Welcome back, everybody, to the Broncos Zone podcast, part of the Elevated Pulse Sports family of podcasts by the fans, for the fans, diehards only. I'm Eric, and tonight I've got Vince and Coach Cobb with me, and we are going to have a conversation around draft classes. That's going to be the bulk of our show tonight. But we have a couple of different topics that we wanted to talk about as well. We can get it started out by, for those listening or watching, if you're in Denver, welcome to May 5th and snow. If you're not in Denver and you can't believe what I just said, yes, we are supposed to get, depending on where you're at in the state or in the city, anywhere from 3 inches to 20 inches, somewhere in that ballpark. So, but that's Denver. But no, we definitely have some exciting things going on. I know Broncos rookie minicamp gets kicked off this weekend, I believe. Coach, what are you, what are you thinking? What are you hoping to maybe see out there from that rookie minicamp?
Yeah, obviously the talk, so much of it is Jonah Coleman. We're going to find out where he's at. Red Farmer, we talked about here a week or two ago. Super excited to see what he's going to bring out. Just seeing how these guys, I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff in the press to see. Of course, the rookies are always saying the right things. I want to make sure they don't get started off on a bad foot with everybody and trying to get into the Denver community and things like that. And so, I think it's going to be interesting from my standpoint. If there is any kind of install, what's things looking like between Davis Webb and Sean Payton? Is Davis really going to step up and start to take over as we get into, because it's such a big time of the year now to sit there and think, wow, we're getting ready to get started. Getting everything put in, starting to get the pieces to see where these guys are going to come in and what they're going to bring to the table this year. Pretty important time for draft picks for sure.
Yeah. Vince, what what do you? I guess if there are things that you highlight or that you look forward to with rookie minicamp, I know it's mostly guys just getting to know their settings and essentially know each other's names. But what do you hope is kind of a takeaway or comes out of rookie minicamp?
Yeah, I would say maybe I'm still just stuck in the draft mindset up, but going into the draft with the perceived biggest areas of need being middle linebacker and tight end, I'd love for Murdoch and Jolly there to be news coming out that they're adapting quickly, they're showing promise, there's a lot of familiarity with the scheme. It's hard with rookie minicamp, right? I mean, so much of it feels like like PR stuff, for the lack of a better way of putting it. You're getting acquainted. You're starting to get some of their personal backstories. And so, I mean, nobody get injured, nobody get in trouble with the team or otherwise. And hopefully people are picking up things quick, because I do believe that there's going to be a role for Jolly and Murdoch, especially obviously Jonah Coleman. But yeah, that's sort of where my mind goes.
Yeah.
Stay healthy and no trouble.
You hit it. That for me, those are the two biggest things. Stay healthy, don't get in trouble, keep your nose in the playbook, kind of those types of things. Really try to endear yourself to the coaching staff, because ultimately you're a rookie. You're probably, most of these guys picked, I mean, outside of maybe some spot time here or there, they're not going to, most of them probably won't have huge minutes or, play a ton of plays if everything shakes out, but again, you never know. You could have some impactful plays and some impactful moments as well. So it all starts at rookie minicamp. And before you know it, we'll blink our eye and it'll be, June, July, and we'll be full-fledged training camp and then, kicking things off in August for the preseason. I know we typically like to get us started with a trivia question. Vince, I think you have a trivia question that hopefully Jim and I will be able to. You won't stump us too bad, and we won't make us look like fools. But I'll kick it over to you.
Jim being a season ticket holder, and Eric, you and I have talked. You've got a lot of familiarity with the team going back quite a ways, and so I believe in you too. I don't think I'm gonna stump you too bad, but I did throw a wrinkle in there because I thought maybe you all would find this a little too easy, and so I am gonna challenge you a little bit. So here's the question: since 1960, the Broncos have had 23 seasons with a 1,000-yard rusher, including 11 out of 12 years from 1995 to 2006. Name, and here's the wrinkle, the challenge, in order. You got to name them in order, the 1,000-yard rushers during that 12-year span. All right.
Ooh. In order.
What year are we starting?
1995. So the first few seasons should be easy.
Yeah, I was going to say it's definitely Terrell Davis.
Yep. All right.
And
so
Terrell,
that takes you 95 through 98.
Right. Yep. I'm going to say Mike Anderson. Or was Orlando Gary?
I was going to say, I think we got Orlando Gary.
Yeah.
Orlando Gary.
We got Mike Anderson.
1999.
Yep. Then Anderson.
Nice. Mike Anderson, the former Marine out of Utah.
Then we've got No Sean Moreno.
I think Portis is definitely before
there it is.
No Sean.
Was that Portis before No Sean? Okay. Yep. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So
otherwise, we don't get a chance.
Clinton Portis for 2 straight years. So Orlando Gary and Mike Anderson were back-to-back years. So 99 and 2000. Then Clinton Portis from 02 to 03. Portis was also our last 1,500-yard runner back in 02 and 03. Back-to-back years of 1,500 yards or more.
Right.
You're gonna make me scratch here.
Okay, so then
is Tatum Bell on that list?
Tatum Bell is not next. You need the 04 season, the 05 season, and the 06 season.
Oh, wait. Oh, man. No, Michael Pittman's not in there.
I'll give you what kind of hint would you all like? Would you like initials? Would you like their name rhymes with, or something more ridiculous?
Can we go maybe colleges?
Oh, no, sorry. I was thinking another one.
Okay, I actually don't know this person's college. Let me look it up.
Well, that's not a great sign.
No, that's actually on me, because he went to what's certainly a big one now, Oregon. It was big back then too, but even bigger now.
Oh, not Monte Ball.
No, that's Wisconsin.
That was Wisconsin. Oh, sorry. What school was it?
Oregon. So another new Big Ten school.
Oh, no, it's no. Did he?
I'll give you one more hint.
All right.
His initials are RD.
Oh, Ron Dane.
No. He was a Bronco for a little bit too.
Ruben Drones.
Drones.
Yeah. People forget about good old Ruben Drones, but he had a good year. He actually had one of the better yards per carry out of this group, and so how quickly forget someone who had such a good year in Ruben Drones.
No.
All right. So now we're on to 05 and 06.
We're probably going to need initials.
You know what? I'm going. You know what? He was on the cover of Madden, not for the Broncos, but for the Browns.
It is not Peyton Hillis.
Peyton Hillis.
Dang it.
He never reached it for the Broncos. So I'll give you a hint for this next one. The person, and this was really surprising to me, I didn't remember this. The person who did it in 05 had done it for the Broncos previously.
Ooh.
So you've already mentioned their name.
So was it? I don't think it was Mike Anderson again.
It was Mike Anderson again.
Was it? Yeah.
Okay. I had forgotten about that. Yeah, it was. So that was kind of a funky year. Mike Anderson had just over 1,000 yards with 1,014, and Tatum Bell had like 920. And so that year they had a really potent rushing attack between the two of them, and they would have been one of a handful of teams had Tatum Bell gotten 80 more yards to have two 1,000-yard rushers in the same season, but they didn't quite get there.
Wow.
Wow. All right. So now you're on the final one. Like I said, you guys are doing great. You've gotten
that takes us to Tatum Bell.
That takes us to Tatum Bell. Well done.
Okay.
Yep. Nice job. The Broncos, for so long, we were known for a really potent running attack, the zone scheme, the cutbacks, and everything. And certainly a handful of those guys were huge beneficiaries of that before they changed up the run scheme a little bit. But yeah, it's not been since 2019 in Phillip Lindsay that the Broncos have had 1,000-yard rusher, and especially now with 17 games in a season, it's kind of insane that the Broncos are just not. We've not been able to crack that threshold for whatever reason. Right. I know health has been a huge determining factor for people like Javonte Williams, and even just this past year. But hopefully, we get someone who's healthy enough to carry it 1,000 yards for us. But we had a lot of 1,000-yard backs there for a stretch under Mike Shanahan.
For sure.
Well, that I think is a complete testament to Mike Shanahan and the offense that he orchestrated. I don't know why the NFL 1,000 yards kind of used to be the benchmark, but now with a 17-game schedule, I'm not great at math off the top of my head, but I think that's like 70 yards per game ish, 60 yards per game. You would figure that would be relatively, you would see more guys hitting that 1,000-yard mark, but for whatever reason, the Broncos have had their struggles, cracking that barrier.
Yeah. It's roughly 59 yards a game, and yet we've not been able to do that.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's we need to somehow go back through Alex Gibbs' book and figure out what that guy was doing with the offensive line that year in and year out was sitting there turning those, obviously it's the kids that got to run it for sure. But Alex Gibbs, man, wherever he went, that guy was turning out those 1,000-yard rushers for sure.
Yeah, I would say too, I mean, it's not all on the offensive guys. I'm a believer that the defensive guys have gotten bigger, stronger, faster. I mean, you've got D linemen, that weigh 330 pounds that are running 4.6, 4.7 40s. Sure. I mean, there's a reason why guys you don't see, the type of yards that you see in a college game being done in the NFL. That's why, when guys come in, and hopefully our rookie class is going to be different this year, but usually you don't see a ton of high impact rookies. And what do you hear so often from those guys? It's the speed of the game is completely different.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. Well, I think can go in real quick, Vince, off of your, and talking about running backs tonight too. There's one I want to throw out there real quick. It's been hitting all over media today that they just sent out an invitation to a running back, Davis from Montana State. It's got me just wondering with Coleman, with Davis, who's got some big numbers and stuff like that. I think they put the running game on notice. I really do. And I think that all those guys right now are looking over their shoulder, trying to figure out exactly what it's going to do. Running back room is definitely going to look different this year. I just have a strong feeling this Davis rushed for over 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns in 2025, and not get drafted, but for the Broncos to give him a look and say, "Hey, this kid we want to bring in." I think they definitely put some guys on notice.
Yeah, and I mean, it feels like every year there's at least one undrafted running back who makes an impact. And you look at Chicago last year with Manungai, he was undrafted, and he was arguably their best running back last year.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly for stretches, there's no
Mm-hmm.
doubt about it. I mean, there were games where the
Yep.
Bears really leaned on him. So no, you're spot on with that. Coach, that's kind of a perfect segue to our second segment. The things that we've seen in the news with Broncos in the news. I know, we talked a little bit about Bo Nix, and apparently he went back in and had I guess it was a scheduled cleanup, but he went back in and they did a second surgery, which doesn't seem to be quite the noisemaker. I think it seemed fairly routine, at least from everything that's being said. And then we got to see some video. I think it was his wife that actually posted it. Some video of him running,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a good sign. I don't know specifically what kind of drills or what he was going through when he was running, but it's always good to see when you're coming off of an ankle injury, a guy to be able to get some work in and see that maybe it allows us Bronco fans to kind of breathe a little bit easier, knowing that he's on the path to recovery and hopefully back to being better than ever.
Sure. Yeah, I think if we were having the same conversation about Peyton Manning and somebody was worried about his ankles, I don't think we'd worry about it too much. For all Peyton's wonderful run against Dallas Cowboys, which yes, for a Cowboy fan that was out there a couple weeks ago, I might be picking on you. Just kidding. But yeah, I think that having that as part of Bo's makeup, that's part of his game. I think that running is big. And you talk to guys like, well, you look at Peyton, you look at Mark Schlereth. When did Mark Schlereth not go in for procedure? And to see Bo get out there, get on the field, that's what people are worried about. Can he get out of the pocket? Can he do the things we want him to do? Um, yeah, I think it's a great sign. And if there's a lot of things that are out there too, signing more quarterbacks, things like that. Sure, there's always camp arms. They can't sit there and take on the whole thing, especially this early. I think they know what they've got with Bo. I think Sean is challenging Bo whenever he can, and again, we'll wait until probably June, maybe July until we get that new offense really hitting in and seeing what we're going to do with it. But there's always camp somebody that's out there that we'll love seeing now, and maybe remember their name by August. Maybe they're gone to another team or on somebody else's practice squad. So, but yeah, I know seeing Bo get out there and run, I think is huge for our offense and what we hope to do this year.
Yeah, I agree. One of the posts I saw is speculating that Bo may never look the same again because there was like a picture of his leg, like with the boot or the cast off. I mean, like nobody's ankle or leg looks good like post op once you take the dressing off. Like it's, I don't know. The Broncos took so long to find a quarterback post Peyton, and we have a competent one. That was sort of the benchmark we needed to meet. We found a competent one in their rookie year, and he's only going to progress. And so, all the sort of rage baiting stuff, I don't think there's anything we need to worry about with him moving on. I can understand if he's irritated with Sean Payton after some of the comments that Payton made about his injury, but Bo is incredibly thick-skinned. You looked at everything he dealt with at Auburn and then went on to find success at Oregon. I feel perfectly confident that Bo is going to be doing fine.
100%.
He's a coach's son, and
From Alabama.
exactly. And anybody who Anybody who's ever been a coach's son or knows how it works with coaches' kids, they usually are the ones who get it the hardest. They get coached the
Mhm.
hardest. And so he can take being coached. You saw it in his rookie year, when him and Sean had kind of the little spat on the sideline, and it's not even a spat. It's they both express how they're feeling and what is working and what's not working, and then boom, it's in their back pocket, and they move on and they play.
Yep.
That's just their personality and who they are and how this relationship works. I think.
Right.
I'm not I'm not thrilled to say that, that he's had ankle surgery after both seasons. But I think, coach, going back to what you said with Stink, they don't make guys like that anymore. I mean,
Mhm.
I remember they Stink, you'd hear him on the radio talking about how he'd have surgery in between weeks
Right.
and then he'd come
Right.
back and play the next week. So,
Yep.
I mean, that's a rare breed, but we were lucky to get to watch him here in Denver.
Especially for a guy that was a throw off from the Redskins, and all you hear is damage here, damage here, damage here, and then it's like, but did he miss a game?
Yep.
Nope, sure didn't. Obviously, in Bo's situation, we understood why that was, and certainly that makes us nervous, and we didn't have, what we thought we had possibly as a backup, but that's the importance of Bo, and yeah, it's promising. It's promising to see him. As far as the thing, going back real quick on your comment, Eric, about spat and everything, or the spat between coach and quarterback. If you don't have that guy that's willing to challenge you every once in a while, as long as he's doing it the right way, then it's great. If you see the competition on the sideline, it means something to each other. If you start doing it in the press, yeah, then obviously it gets a little sloppy and it gets a little ugly for people. But hey, on the sideline every time, unless it's in a Jake Plummer situation. Sorry, Jake, love you, but that didn't turn out too well. But between him and Sean, I think they both realized that yeah, we're competitors and we're ready to take it to the next step for sure.
Yep. Yep. The other Bronco in the news that we saw this week, probably, Vince, I know you go back a long way with the Broncos. I'm going to challenge you here. Can you think of a classier Bronco than Justin Simmons? Um, just from the way he played, putting everything out there, to the way he ultimately leaves. I think he's a class act 100% all the way around. And I'm glad he came back, signed I don't know if it's technically a 1 day, but retired as a Bronco. That's who he should retire as.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no one jumps to mind. And, in prepping for this episode, one of the things I wrote down was, he was huge in the community. I have friends that are educators around Denver, and he was a consistent presence in the things that the Broncos did in the community. I think he was frequently towards the final few for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. But I mean, especially within education around the Denver metro area, he was a huge continual presence, and not just like one of these ones like uh grip and grin for the camera type. Like, he stayed and he passed when the cameras were, he got to know people and he was invested. And I mean, you know, they're human. I understand that not everybody, that's not everybody's thing, but he seemed genuine from all accounts that I've ever heard. And so you asked if there was a better quote unquote good guy around Denver. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah, I I agree. I mean, of current guys, Garrett Bowles comes to mind. I know he's kind of been that Walter Payton Man of the Year type of guy for the Broncos. But I mean, somebody that just did it his whole career. Any time you looked at community events here in Denver, Justin Simmons was always front and center. And to make it even better, he was a stud on the field. So that's everybody likes to cheer for a winner, but it's just as much fun to cheer for a winner who turns out to be a great human being as well. And I think that's who we got in Justin Simmons. I'm really glad to see him, kind of ride off into the sunset here in Denver. And certainly, I know I can speak for you guys. We wish him nothing but the best as he continues to do whatever he's going to do, which I'm sure will continue to impact communities around Denver. So, looking forward to seeing what he's got cooking.
Yep.
Anything else that we're missing? I know, actually, Coach, you did shoot me a message. You wanted to talk a little bit about the season ticket issue. Not, I shouldn't say issue, but with a new stadium kind of on the horizon, there's some questions around what do season tickets look like potentially as we move forward. And so I know you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's great to see success. Obviously, like, knowing how long I've been a season ticket holder for, you always have that waiting after the season of, man, what's it going to look like next year? As far as how much are we going to have to pay? What are we going to do? There's a story that came out this week, and the Broncos, obviously, most sellouts in the NFL, most consecutive years sellouts in the NFL. They're right up there. I can't remember exactly. I think Washington might be ahead of us or might be right there with us. But that being said, the Broncos, they set a franchise record this year of 99.5% season ticket renewal rate for 2026. It's the highest in team history. Even though the average price of tickets went up 9%, that's how crazy Denver is. In fact, they said that the number of people that are on the wait list are 107,000 people out there waiting. So, it's pretty crazy. I had a friend actually who got on the list. He got tickets 3-4 seasons ago, and he was on that list for 18 years. And for me, it was crazy to think, wow, I've known this guy for 18 years now, to see him come back up on there. But yeah, it's crazy. It just goes to show what kind of fans we have here in Denver. And as we go into the stadium, as we go and get ready for the next stadium, Broncos got to be feeling pretty good that they've got that kind of fan base. I don't think there's any question in fan base as far as any NFL team goes, and I'm obviously extremely biased, but to see that kind of season ticket renewal rate for something that we're building, like we talked about earlier, we got the quarterback of the future. What we see as quarterback of the future moving forward, and what a great time it is to be a Bronco fan on that.
Yeah, even through lean years, right? I mean, look, the Broncos are on the up, but to be on the up, you had to be a little down, and the Broncos were a little down for a stretch there from the time Peyton retired. And the fact that we were still selling out the stadium and filling seats, that's a testament to the fans in Denver. And I know we're a Broncos podcast, but it's not just the Broncos. It's I'm going to take the Rockies out of this equation because it's tough for the Rockies right now. It's tough for them. But outside of the Rockies, I mean, you're talking, we just a few weeks ago had 73,000 plus people at a inaugural women's soccer game.
Yep.
I mean, that is if that doesn't scream, hey, we're a city that's going to support our sports teams, I don't know what else would. So no, it's exciting. I think that's ultimately one of the things that the Broncos ownership and coaches are able to use to lure in free agents, is to say, hey, you want to play in front of a fan base that's going to support you, rain or shine, come to Denver. Come to Denver. That's what we're going to do.
What they really need to do is they need to show these guys the footage from back in 1977 when everybody was painting their houses orange. painting everything orange that they possibly could. Orange Sunday was a big deal. Orange Monday was a big deal. Yeah, you sit there and look at that type of stuff, and then to see what we have, with the 3 Super Bowl trophies, things like that. I mean, why would you rather go to another town than the Broncos? To be honest with you, this fan base is just it's incredible, and yeah, it's been a great ride, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to continue it for sure on the side.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. All right, so let's transition into our draft class comparisons now. I know when we talk about draft class comparisons, look, the Broncos throughout history have had some real bangers when it comes to draft classes. You've got the Von Miller draft class. You've got gosh, so that's the 2011. You've got the 2012 right after it. Kind of that was them building the core of Super Bowl 50. But I mean, going back further, 2006, you've got Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall, Elvis Dumervil, Tony Scheffler. But for the real old school guys, when we start talking early 80s, you got 83 with Carl Mecklenburg, Gary Kubiak, Mark Cooper, John Elway. I obviously came over in a trade. But it's funny, as I kind of did some research on this. Look, I guess draft classes are kind of a funny thing because it's really opinion based, and I don't know that there is a right answer or a wrong answer, but I was interested to see what some general thoughts were around what's the best Bronco draft class of all time, and I kept running into 1975, and I will raise my hand and say that was before I was born, but Lewis Wright, Rick Upchurch, Reuben Carter, Steve Foley. The notes that I kind of put together, usually considered the gold standard. It gave Denver multiple long-term stars and key pieces of the late 70s rise. So obviously my point being is there's some history there when it comes to draft classes. I think, the Broncos have shown the ability to really pick some good ones. And I think what we decided to do is we're going to look back over the last 5 years. We're not going to, last week we kind of broke down the 2026 draft class. We're not going to put a grade on them yet because it's just, quite frankly, too soon to tell. None of them have taken a snap. We don't even know what the numbers they're going to wear. So I think what we'll do, and Vince, I'm going to start with you. I think we're going to kind of work backwards. We'll go back to 2021. And we'll kind of each talk about some of the guys from that draft class, and then maybe I don't think we have to have a consensus grade, but maybe each of us kind of give a grade on what we think, and then we'll work forward all the way up until last year's draft. So Vince, what do you think about that 2021 class?
Yeah, I mean, with hindsight being 25 years on, I feel like I could argue with anyone that you could give this class an A. You get a defensive player of the year. I mean, you literally only get one of those players in the NFL per year, and we drafted one in that year at number 9. I mean, like, that is a premium pick, but 8 people were still selected ahead of somebody who is designated as the best player on the defensive side of the ball, and Patrick Surtain. And so, I mean, that's huge. But then we also got Quinn Miners. We took Baron Browning, and he got off to a pretty decent start with the Broncos early in his career, dealt with some injury issues, but then we were able to trade him. And I say able to, the way NFL teams value their draft picks, they don't often trade for veteran players in the middle of the season, but we did that with Baron Browning. And so that pick, even though we only got 6 back for him, I think we took him in the 3rd round. It showed that he had some value to somebody else. And so that wasn't a miss by any stretch of the imagination. And we got Jonathan Cooper in the 7th round. So 3 core starters today, and Patrick Surtain, Quinn Myers, and Jonathan Cooper came from the 2021 draft. And Jonathan Cooper, double-digit sacks this past year. We already talked about Patrick Surtain, and Quinn Miners is one of the most consistent linemen we have and is a road paver. I mean, he's and a fan favorite. So, I mean, I think it's really easy to look back at that class and give them an A.
Yep. Yeah, Coach, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree on that. Certainly to sit there and look at that up and down, and again, we put so much, we talked about the draft, this past one, just kind of going just real quick and not go down the list. But we talked about, man, the Broncos not starting until the third round. What do you find by the time you get in the third round? How do you roll with that? And to what Vince was saying, I mean, shoot, we got Jonathan Cooper in the 7th round. He was our second 7th round pick. Man, that's enough fun. That's a really nice find there in the 7th round. And so, yeah, no, I have to agree. And looking over at the last 5, certainly a huge, huge, huge draft for us. Looking at if I can pop on to 2022, wow, really up and down. Obviously, right off the bat, much as we did with Surtain, we got Nick Benito. And as I recall, he was sitting behind a few players, didn't know if he was really going to come on, and had to shuffle a few guys. And the next thing we know, we're talking about this guy almost in the same breath, not quite, but almost in the same breath as Pat Surtain, and being a leader and doing some of that stuff. Dulcich, another tight end. We kind of took a swing for the fences, kind of missed on. Great hair, but that was pretty much about it. And then we go down through. We got Uwazurke, who has done some stuff here and there, and then Luke Wattenberg that helped us out for a short time. Otherwise, boy, I'll tell you what, that one, I think it'd be more in that C minus, maybe C, just because of Benito kind of pulls it up. Otherwise, to look at the rest of that particular draft, was definitely not one of our best. And in a very tough year in trying to get things figured out as we transition, getting ready for Sean to start showing up and doing some stuff for us.
Yeah, I think Benito definitely brings that class up. I know we're talking draft classes, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say, that year was a year we found Jaquan McMillan as an undrafted free agent.
True.
And he definitely pulls that class up as well.
True.
Those are two guys, talk about centerpieces of the defense today. I mean, clearly Nick Benito is the headliner, but we all saw the play that Jaquan made in the playoffs against Buffalo, and we don't make it to that game against New England, the AFC Championship game, without that play being made. So that one was a tough draft. Damari Mathis, I think, there was a little bit more high hopes for him. Darian Turner-Yell, if I'm not mistaken, was also part of that class. So,
yeah.
There definitely a couple of misses. But look, when you're able to come away from a draft with a guy who is a 2-time Pro Bowler, maybe a two-time All-Pro, if I'm not mistaken, on Benito, 14 plus sacks last year. So, I mean, it's hard to say it was a complete flop, but I would agree it's maybe somewhere in that C plus range. That's kind of my thoughts on that 22 draft class. Vince, anything else we missed?
Yeah, I have them as a C. I think they have a potential to go up just a teeny tiny bit if Owuzurike shows something this year. We've kind of been waiting for him to show up for a couple years now. And if this is the year he does it, especially with the exit of John Franklin Myers, if he even shows a tiny bit of ability to fill that gap, maybe this changes the way we look at this class a little bit. But even so, I would say at this point, the max grade that this class could get is a C plus, and that's only because of Nick Benito, as you all said.
Yeah, yeah,
For
and
sure.
we'll see. We'll see if Jaquan McMillan. Who knows? Maybe he turns into something else. Maybe he turns into a future draft pick, or maybe he moves Riley Moss. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's to me those two guys are clearly front and center of that draft. As we kind of move into 2023, that was the draft class where we had, not a whole lot of draft capital. We had the Russell Wilson trade, which, kind of sucked some draft capital out of the Broncos sales. But all in all, I Marvin Mims, part of that draft class. Riley Moss, I just mentioned, was part of that draft class. Mims, I think, was picked at 63, so second round. Drew Sanders, I guess he's kind of that guy who's, this injury bug has just bitten him, and he's never really had. We're kind of still waiting to see who Drew Sanders is, or if he's ever going to be anything. I know at some point, the NFL, they always say it stands, not for long. You're not going to get 1,000 chances. So hopefully this is going to be the year where Drew comes out and is able to show something. But what's your guys' thoughts on that 23 class?
Mine, in all honesty, it's funny. I really didn't know a lot of the guys that we were getting out of there. I mean, you look at Riley Moss. I hoped that we would get something out. I always like guys from Iowa. They seem to be hard hitters, and I was hoping. To be honest with you, mine out of that class, I was really hoping for JL Skinner. I had seen some really big things from him. Saw him light some guys up, and there was a lot of things back and forth that kind of reminded me, especially height and size, of Steve Atwater. And I know that's a big person to hold him up to, but I was really hoping that was going to be something that we would see. But, a lot of times we forget, we sit there and look at the position and think about, I want this guy to be the next wide receiver, this guy to be the next safety that's going to take us next level. And then we generally tend to forget about special teams guys. And I think JL Skinner is one of those guys that I think his value to us as a team on the special teams has been pretty invaluable. Yeah, Drew Sanders got a lot of talk out of that one. And then Marvin, been happy with Marvin so far, but I think that they're, again, and looking at some of the draft class this year and looking at some of the undrafted free agents they're starting to bring in, I think is another guy that's putting on notice. So for that one, Riley Moss, Marvin Mims, certainly, to look at the onset of it, looked like it would be somewhere in a B column for the for the two players that have contributed, but then you got JL Skin that's kind of helped it out. So for me, it'd probably be like a B minus. I think I would have given that as a draft class on that one.
What about you, Eric?
That's exactly where I had that class, was a B minus. I think for me, what really kind of pushed it over the top, and again, I know we're talking draft classes, but I always think of the undrafted free agents that come in with that class. I always just think of it as one big conglomerate. That's part of the draft class, whether or not they were actually drafted. That year was especially big for the Broncos. I mean, they had 15 undrafted free agents that they signed after the draft. And of those, Jaleel McLaughlin, I think that's a big piece for us. Nate Atkins, he's obviously had some playing time. Gosh, I know I'm going to murder the last name, but we just re-signed, what was it, Alex Pawlowski?
Palczewski, I think.
Palczewski,
Yep.
thank you. So he, there were obviously some guys there that they found. Now, the thing with for me with Mims, like, I still look. He's been fine. He's been serviceable. I like him. He's obviously great in the return game, but I really think that they want and need more from him as a wide receiver. They need his ability to be able to stretch the field, and I think that going out and getting a Jalen Waddle, that was to me that was a direct hey Marvin, you've not been able to do this. I think we need to go find somebody else that can do it.
Sure.
So I don't know. I again for what we were dealt, I think we had no first round pick that year. The second round pick, it was kind of a lot like this year where we traded away that first round pick, but the second round pick was late. I think we moved up in the third, if I'm not mistaken, to get Riley Moss. But for what we kind of had coming into that draft, I would probably put it somewhere around that B minus C plus, kind of somewhere in that range.
It's exactly what I had, C plus. And I mean, just to echo everything you all have said, I think I agree with everything. Marvin Mims, I mean, he's a first team All Pro returner, and that's great. It's valuable and it's really exciting. But I mean, that's not specifically what he was drafted for. And you don't use his second round pick because you're like, hey, I think this guy can be a first team All Pro returner. We expected him to be a more consistent threat in the pass game, and that's not yet materialized. Who knows? Maybe he gets some sort of wake up call. I like him. I think we need more pop, so to speak, in the passing game, and I think getting Jalen Waddle obviously will help produce that. But it'd be great if Marvin had a career year out of the slot or doing something for us because as great as he's been in the return game, he's been underwhelming in the pass game, and that's just not what you need when you take someone in the second round. In terms of Riley Moss, I actually really love Riley Moss. I think he has one of the hardest jobs in all of pro football, beyond the opposite side of Patrick Surtain in Vance Joseph's defense. And I don't think they can play the way they do without having someone that they trust as much as him. And if you go back to 2 seasons ago, the way the pass defense, the efficiency fell off that handful of games that Riley Moss got injured, it's because they didn't have anybody else who could do what he was able to do on a consistent basis. Yes, he gets a ton of penalties. I would argue a lot of them aren't actually valid. He just sort of got them because of his reputation as the season went on. I think he's actually the biggest hit in that draft. But with that being the case, it's still a C plus. As much as I love Riley Moss.
I love Riley Moss as well. I'm from Iowa, so I have a special place in my heart for Hawkeye. Anything, whether it's quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, linebackers, offensive line, tight ends, whatever. But I love what you said about the penalties. I think a lot of it is just his. They're not. I think a lot of it is just, what has been seen in the past, and he seems to get a lot of ticky-tack fouls. But the guy is an absolute beast, to be honest with you. When you look at the actual numbers and break down the numbers, look, nobody's throwing at Surtain. They just don't throw to his side of the field.
Right.
And so that means somebody else is going to get a ton of work. And Moss goes out there, and I mean, he does a really good job of kind of putting that pressure on him and saying, "Look, I don't care who that number 2 option is. I'm gonna do my best and slow him down." And he does do a really good job. He gets his hands on a lot of balls. I loved it last year when he finally kind of got rewarded with a pick towards the end of the year. I know he had a tough year last year, just with the penalties. The coolest thing about it, though, is he didn't really let it affect him as how he played. He still played the same way. He's physical. He gets in, he's very hands-on, and sometimes he's going to pick up a penalty. I mean, I guess you're just going to have to live with it if you're a Bronco fan. I get it. I've sat there and groaned when they happen as well. But when you look at them, you just sometimes you just shake your head and say, "Man, I see that happen 7 other times in this game. And we only throw a flag on when it's Riley Moss. I don't know what
Yeah.
the deal is."
Yeah.
And not to turn this into the Riley Moss episode, but you look at the times that he got beat, there were some insane catches that he got beat on. So it's not like he's getting torched by 15, 20 yards because he just got beat in the route. You look at the San Diego game, that catch that Keenan Allen had that ended up being the winning touchdown. That's a one-handed
Yeah.
touchdown cast with the guy, his hands right there. And then I think Treylon Burks caught that touchdown against him too. That was that like one-handed back of the end zone highlight against the Commanders, but like what are you going to do if you're a corner? Like you covered everything else and guys came up with a highlight reel play. Like I'll take that.
Yeah, ultimately the other guys get paid too, right? Like that.
Mhm.
There's a reason why they're in the NFL, and they make great plays too. So let's move on to 2024. I wish Braden was on because I know he's this is his year. Kind of the reset draft, right? This is where we had to go find a quarterback, and we did with our first round pick. Look, I think there were questions around the league when they saw the Broncos take Bo Nix. What was it at 12? I think was the number. I think there were some guys who absolutely loved Bo Nix, and there were other guys who said he's not even a first rounder in our eyes. Clearly, though, Sean Payton saw him as a first rounder, and clearly, I think he's proving himself as we continue to go and see his career kind of expand, and he starts to take on more. So home run for me for that the first round pick. I know we also had in that draft, we had Jonah Ellis, Troy Franklin, Chris Abrams-Drain, Audric Estime, kind of a disappointment there. I think we all expected a lot more from him. He looked the part. He just couldn't hold on to the ball. Devon Vele, obviously, we moved him, but what we saw of him in a Bronco uniform, I mean, he was clearly a guy that could play. So to me, overall, I think that was really a great draft. They found a lot of pieces in that draft. I think Jonah Ellis, to me, kind of is the guy who flies a little bit under the radar. It just seems when he's healthy, the guy makes plays. He makes plays. So I think that draft, I'd probably put that somewhere around an A minus. That's kind of in my eyes, but love to hear your guys' thoughts.
I give this one a B plus. For me, it's all about Bo Nix. Like that's all that matters. We were starving, like I said earlier, for a competent quarterback. We got that and more in Bo Nix. And I mean the story was Sean Payton, the Broncos had sent over like a thick playbook of concepts and installs for a meeting that they had in the draft process with Bo Nix, and he had it all memorized at their meeting. And Sean Payton got back in the car with the staff, and he said that was freaking impressive. I'm ad-libbing there, but he was sold pretty much after that process, and you know. I wasn't in love with the pick the night of the draft because I thought they could have waited. They traded up a handful of spots. But George Payton was quoted as saying, when you love somebody, like you don't want to watch them go off the board to somebody else. So you do what you have to go get them. And now like we just needed a quarterback so badly, especially after Russell Wilson. And that's all that matters. But as you said, Jonah Ellis, great consistent player when he's healthy. Troy Franklin really flashed this past year, so I give it a B plus, and that's only because I think they've yet to reach their potential. They've only played 2 years, and I think they can ascend into that A spot depending on what happens in the next handful of years.
Yeah, looking again, as you guys said, everything goes towards the quarterback. Bo, I like the fact that you have those meetings. you have that time because so much of this we've seen his ability. Saw it at Auburn, saw it at Oregon. I certainly don't think there's any doubt. Of course, you looked at uh, the line situation of a guy like JJ McCarthy, and I know there are a lot of people that were like, "Wow, why didn't we get this guy? We had him right there." Um, Obviously, we're very glad. Sorry, JJ, that it's been a rough go for you so far with injuries and things like that. In regards to Bo's ankle, are we still way ahead of JJ McCarthy? Absolutely. I think Sean had Bo, to be honest with you. I think he had him. You had to look at a guy like Jaden Daniels, certainly, with the ability, but we knew that was, probably not in the cards. But I think there was something that sold Bo on Sean in that meeting and having him go through, like you said, Vince. And so I think from that standpoint, the future is looking bright. I think we're in good shape there. Yeah, Jonah Ellis, I think, is a rotating type of guy. Again, I think he just adds strength to our defense. He's just another piece that, if we could be like we are at linebacker on so many, on outside linebacker, as we are with so many of these guys at these other positions, I think we're the most unbeatable team in the NFL. Jonas certainly helped out. Troy, rookie season, showed flashes. Last year, I think, helped himself out in a lot of situations. I think that Sean sees a position for him, but it was not starting at the outside on the other side of Cortland Sutton. And I think that's why Jaden came up for us. Great player. Has definitely helped us out. Probably my pick that I was most unhappiest with, that I really thought, was Audric Estime. Him now at Notre Dame. You sit there and you hear a story, guy that's never fumbled. That's the greatest thing you want to hear. And then he had the first fumble, and everything just kind of crumbled from there. And it would have been great to see him continue to do great things, but that one kind of took it down. And Vele, I was a little bummed when they sent him. It certainly has worked out for us with picks and things like that. But yeah, I mean, if we could see another one like the Bo Nix draft, that would be great. I'd definitely give that one. That one's got to be, to me, it's got to be an A-, just in where we sit.
Yeah, I'm glad that Vince. I'm glad you said that there. We've only seen a couple of years out of these guys, and there's still some time. Troy Franklin, to me, is a guy that has all the talent, all the skills, and he has the rapport with Bo Nix. Playing with him in college. I kind of think, I don't know if it's a hot take, but maybe Troy Franklin breakout in 2026. We'll see. I like him a lot. I think he's a guy who hopefully he kind of can fly a little bit under the radar with all the other guys that we have at the wideout position. So, and then the one other thing too on that draft, just kind of putting a bow on it, Frank Crum, undrafted free agent, Frank Crum. This you love linemen that can catch the ball. You just love it. So
yep. Definitely a fan favorite on that one for sure.
Definitely a fan favorite.
Absolutely.
No question. And maybe not as good as hair as Dulcich, but still good hair.
And the thing of it is, I can tell you, I don't know if at any home game last year there was another person that was cheered for as much as Frank Crum. And every time he sat in at the outside tackle, and everybody in the stadium said, throw it to him when he reported eligible.
Yeah,
I can guarantee you that guy, at one point in time, he was going to get one. Thank God he finally did.
Well, that brings us to last year's class. I don't want to hurry through it, but I know we're kind of up against time here. To me, it's almost still an incomplete. It's all because we've seen 1 year. Look, Jade Barron, he looks to maybe be, looks like he's a guy who can play. RJ Harvey, I think, hit. He was a little bit hit and a little bit miss. I think he was thrust into the spotlight and he had to be the only guy. And I don't think that's his bread and butter. He's not a 20 plus carry type of guy, at least not in my opinion. He's a guy that can come in and win you games because of his speed. So hopefully that he gets a little bit of adjustment this year. Pat Bryant, again, I think we saw flashes. Savion Jones, Q Robinson, all guys that I think, on the defensive side are going to probably get some time this year. And, I think they can grow into pieces that could play on this defense and, ultimately, hopefully continue the trend of us having, one of the top Ds in the NFL. We talked about him last week, just briefly. The tight end out of BYU, I think, Caleb Lohner. I think he's kind of the guy who we're all like, is he going to turn into anything? Is he not? I know we know Sean Payton loves those basketball players that play tight end. So we'll see what he turns into. But to me, like I said, I'll let you guys speak on it. But to me, that draft class is still kind of an incomplete.
Yeah, I wrote TET, too early to tell. I I'm actually a little bit higher on RJ Harvey based off of what you just said. I think given what we got out of him for him being undersized for the running back position, I actually really appreciate what he was able to accomplish. Jahade Barron for me is someone I was expecting more from. Um I think Pat Bryant could be really good. That's somebody else who, like, the quote unquote draft experts were surprised that we took him as high as we did, but Sean Payton loved him and he flashed. And Savion Jones, from lots of different accounts, is expected to have a pretty decent sized role this year. And so I think they found people who fit with what Sean Payton wants to do, and I think they're going to be given a chance to receive a pretty good grade if they even show competency in their roles that they're given this year.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Like you said, too early to tell, certainly. RJ Harvey coming out there, we always talk about the running back and getting a running game going. I'm a huge person when it comes to the running game, but then to sit there and look at his stats and realize how many receptions he had, more than a lot of other backs. And so I think that coming into this year, even looking at, obviously his role is going to have to change. He's not Coleman. He's not going to be the bowling ball type, but he's going to be that guy that's going to come out and potentially give us another weapon out of the backfield as well, in a different way than being that running back guy that we're looking for. Yeah, Pat Bryant, I'm hoping does not fall into the would have, should have, wish he could have stayed healthy. Concussions are such a big part of everything now that I hope it doesn't cut him short, because he was off to a great start and he was finding his footing and finding his role. And I hope we're not talking about that here in a couple of years. And like I said, in the woulda, should have. And Jahade Barron, if he's going to take it, Riley, as we talked about earlier, Riley Moss is going to fight him all the way tooth and nail, as much as he's taking on those receivers. So, like I said, we'll see what happens here coming up in minicamp.
Yeah, contract years for Moss and McMillan too. So, Jade's got to be great for him to show something.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's always a good problem to have players that can play everywhere. So the Broncos are in a position, I think, where we have a lot of really good talent. We have depth at a lot of positions, and who knows? I know we've kind of scratched our head a little bit about the safety position. Maybe Barron ends up being a safety. I don't know. Maybe he plays that dime package where he comes in. We'll see. I know I'm sure Vance Joseph has plans for all these guys, but we're all here for it, and we definitely are excited to. Gosh, it's May 5th, and here we are having dreams of of rookie mini camp, and hopefully the calendar treats us nicely and can turn quickly and get us into preseason football and then the NFL season. But we have a long way to go until then. But really, really appreciate the conversation tonight, guys. For everybody who's out there listening, give us a follow, give us a like, throw some comments up there for us. We'd love to interact with you guys. Next week, I know we will have Zach and Braden back, so we'll kind of have the full team back, and we'll looking forward to another good episode. But thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and we will see you guys next week.
There you go. See ya.
Thanks, guys.